So I want to talk about intriguing subplots with 30 games left. And some of them are easy to figure out, and some of them are a little harder to figure out. But the number one subplot to me, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, and it makes me mad that we're in this position, but what can you do? I think the Lakers are the number one subplot to watch over the next 30 games. The Denver game was so interesting last night to see like the real Luka in a Lakers game, and to watch, their centers, whatever. They're just double teaming Jokic. They're just going to be happy with Westbrook and those, like whoever. Fine, shoot 16 for 41 from three. We don't care. We got to take out Jokic. But the thing that I really noticed that people talked about when they made the trade was just 48 minutes of Luka and LeBron, or Luka or LeBron. But you always have somebody out there who just has this crazy IQ and is a really good offensive player. And I've never wavered from thinking Luka was going to be awesome on this team. I just thought it was scary last night. And if I'm in the West, I think there's 4 teams that can win the title, and we can talk about a couple wild cards. I think the Lakers are an official wild card for me.
I agree, and it's the defensive numbers. Like you mentioned it, if you go back the last 15, that's the number one defense in the league. They're 12-3. It's the best record over the last 15. The offense. Do
you understand
is top
that?
10.
What's your explanation for that, other than just they're playing hard?
Well, I think having some of the pieces, I thought Rui played his ass off last night, both. I mean, you can look at the points, but it was what he was doing defensively. Now, granted, Vando comes in and just hacks the shit out of Jokic, but it's like they're not going to call all of these, although they tried to call all of them on Vanderbilt because he didn't play a ton of minutes. But the Cam Reddish thing seems over. The Dalton Connect minutes are limited if you start looking at these things. So I think we gave Vincent being healthy, with Vando being healthy, with them liking this Rui center matchup stuff, because they're basically forced to figure this out, because the Jackson Hayes minutes usually aren't that great, because the longer he's out there, the longer there's just going to be something that happens. And specific to last night, Bill, I loved that game. Okay.
Me too. I thought it was really impressive.
Because we look at the playoff and you go bracket wise, like how far can LA go? It's like, well, they're going to run into Denver again, so that's not going to work. And last night's one result. But I thought this coaching staff showed the difference, where it's always about the roster for me. But there are little times, like Kenny Atkinson this year with Cleveland, like clearly there's something better with this, with his approach to basketball. I think JJ and this staff did such a fantastic job of last night's preparation. The possessions, when you really looked at what they were doing, there's these non-spacing lineups that Denver runs out there outside of Jokic, where the Lakers are like, if this is what you're going to run out, like, we are not going to pay attention to Aaron Gordon. We're not going to care about Westbrook. They had a play, and I'll finish here, but LeBron was on Jokic kind of in the paint, left side. Dalton is in the dunker spot, ignoring Aaron Gordon. Okay, he's basically under the rim. The other two wing players to the right, the Lakers defenders are in the paint. So that's 4 players in the paint against Jokic. The only one that was providing any spacing was Michael Porter Jr. at the top of the key, and Rui was defending him, but Rui was only like a foot beyond the free throw line. And you saw it possession after possession, where you could see the Lakers, like specifically the way they prepped that game last night. I think that's a credit to JJ and the staff going, we've got to come up with something new that's Jokic specific. And it worked. And, it really wasn't much of a game on top of all the Luka stuff that I know you want to get to.
Well, they did the same thing to that Celtics game that we both went to in LA, where they kicked the Celtics ass. And part of it was they just were really well prepared. And they used a bunch of things against the Celtics that I had kind of been waiting for, somebody to do. Especially like, you're going to try to force it to Porzingis? Great. That's going to throw your whole team out of whack. Like, keep giving the ball. And Porzingis had a good first quarter. Nobody else did. And then it's like, oh, here's the top of the second quarter. This is when Jalen tries to get his offense for 6 minutes. We're going to make it really hard for him. And it was just, you were just watching it going, oh, this team's got their shit together. Last night against Denver, you would think, well, why doesn't everybody do that against Jokic? First of all, it's hard to do it. Second of all, it's hard to commit to it. And your guys have to be really disciplined with it. But they also have smart players. Like, everyone makes fun of Luka's defense, but he's still a really smart basketball player, right? LeBron, I think, has been noticeably better on defense for a month and a half now.
I don't know what the timeline is,
we were the first month of the season, where it was like, oh my God, he's just not playing. He's a DH now. Now he's really active, and they just have size and physicality that I think you saw it against the Celtics. They bullied the Celtics. Now, slightly different team. But when they have Rui and LeBron and Luka all together, like that's like 800 pounds of dudes.
So are you in? Are you in? Are they your fifth team? Are they the first team outside of your tier one playoff like title contenders?
Well, I wrote down.
You tiered us up?
No, I wrote down things I like about them. And the number one thing is just always having Luka or LeBron out there. One of the two or both. I think it's just really hard to play them. You don't have a moment like you had with the Knicks today where Brunson has to sit down. It's like, all right, it's campaign time. Cross your fingers. Like the Lakers just never have that.
Campaign was nice, though, that first shift.
He was. He made 3 in a row.
That's probably the best thing ever for a Knicks opponent. Be like, hey, don't forget, like tight game second half. Campaign made 3 in a row in the first half, so that's good for us.
He's going to think he can get to 20. The fact that the defensive numbers are like, if they were 9th or 11th, the Lakers, I'd be like, okay, that's a little fluky. There's probably some. When you're in the top 5, when you're in the top 3, like that's not fluky at some point. I think JJ's a legitimately good coach. And I thought what they did last night to Joker, who was terrible because they made him terrible. But then you just look at it, it's just at some point it's math. Last night, LeBron and Luka had 59, 19, and 12. If you're going to get numbers that look like that from your best 2 guys, you're going to be heard from a couple playoff rounds. So if I was a Laker fan, I'd be excited. But this is why we all went nuts when the trade happened. This is fucking crazy. You don't just get to add the 4th best guy in your team, in the league to your team, just, for Anthony Davis and Max Christie, who, by the way, has been playing great.
Yeah, he has been good. I think some of the worst anti-LeBron content that I've ever seen was Luka's stat lines, those first 3 games with LeBron. Like, I get it. If you hate LeBron, you hate LeBron.
Right.
Come up with better evidence than that. Because I went to Luka's first game, that he had played in like 2 months. I went to Crypto that night to watch him play against Utah. And he was so tired, like 4 times up and down the court. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, he's so tired. Like he doesn't even, because, he hasn't been complaining because he's on a new team. Like we haven't seen him. And it was kind of funny. Like obviously last night's the best that he's looked with the Lakers. That first half was incredible. The way he was kind of getting into a shot and not like basketball's funny, man. You can be this incredible player. Here we are talking about somebody who has a chance to be the best player in the world. And it's like, I'm new here. So I'm just trying to fit in for a little bit.
Yeah.
And if you're a coach and it's Luka, you're like, don't be trying to fit in, dude. Just do what you do. And then we'll figure it out around you. And just because the stats were bad, and then they had the weird breaks, so like all that stuff was so stupid. He was great last night. It was funny too because he made a play and then he cycled out the 3-point line, was wide open, and he didn't get the ball back. And it's the first time I've seen him pissed with the Lakers, and he put his hands up like, "You idiots! Like what are you doing?" Right. And I'm going, "This is great. This is that's what you want out of this dude. You want him pissed that he didn't get the ball back." So. I'm shocked the defensive numbers are that good the last 15. It's been a big part of this turnaround. They finally beat Denver, so I'm not ready to say that they've solved Denver. There's just going to be some spacing stuff in the playoffs where if it's Westbrook or if it's Brown, and I think even Michael Porter Jr. is like such a coin toss game. Gordon is a matchup specific guy, but they're going to ignore him even though he's shooting like over 40% from 3. They just did a great job of loading up on all this stuff. But look, man, your closing group in a tight playoff game, if the 3 perimeter dudes are LeBron, Luka, and Reeves, I have a hard time believing that defense is going to be just living on stops, though, in the playoffs. Right?
Yeah, they're probably trying to outscore. The Luka dialogue was, I feel like a lot of the sports dialogue is just getting worse because it's just this quick rush to whatever judgment. He could have one bad game, his first Laker game, and it was like, oh my God, this is why the Mavs traded him. And it's nobody thinks of the human element of this guy thought he was going to be the next Dirk Nowitzki in Dallas. He had no idea the trade was coming. They trade him. He's got to move to LA. He's got to figure out where he's going to live. He's taking shit about that. He's got a drinking problem and that he eats too much and they didn't want to give the max. And they're just, laying into him left and right, leaking stuff to make him look bad. On top of that, he's got to figure out how he fits in with this new team. He's got to play with LeBron, who's this guy he grew up watching, right? He's got to figure out how he fits in offense, new coaching staff. He's not in shape. It's like, oh, you think this is going to go bad for like a week?
Yeah, and he hadn't played. He hadn't played in 2 months.
Basketball. Like Perkins Perkins tweeted 3 days ago. It's going to be another 2-3 weeks before we see the real Luka he is to get in basketball shape, get his legs under. And then last night he tweets, like I said, give Luka time. It's like, yeah, no kidding. We got to give Luka time, sure, to adjust to his new team and get back in shape. I'm pretty sure he'll be able to figure this out. He's had one of the 5 best offensive starts to anybody in the history of the NBA in their first 7 years. I think we're going to be okay with Luka Doncic. I'm not worried. But people were worried. I don't know
who was really like. Who did you respect that is what was worried?
Well, but some people have platforms who this is kind of what you do. You just go nuts, get mad. Luka Doncic was terrible. This is why the Mavericks traded him.
I would say if over 50% of your tweets are about LeBron or Jordan, then you should just be banned from the platform.
It's fair. We talked to Elon about it.
So, have you been hanging out with him much lately?
I haven't talked to him. Lakers have the 6th best odds on FanDuel right now, so it's not a hot take to say, oh, I think they're a title contender. I think that's where they are. I think they're in that wild card team. I went back and I looked at. I think this needs a name. I came up with post All-Star late bloomer, but I think we could do better.
I don't know. That sounds great.
Thanks.
What is it?
Well, these teams that over the course of the last 30 games at some point got their shit together and became a real contender. So the reason I thought of this was because we watched it happen with Dallas last year. Dallas was 16-4 to finish the season. They were 5th net. Remember they had a big winning streak, then they had a losing streak, and then they started winning again. And at some point, it felt like there might be something there in a real way, right? 2023, it happened with the Lakers. They were 16-7 down the stretch, 4th net. They ended up making the Western Finals. 2022 is when the Celtics were they 25-25, then went on the run. Their last 22 games, they were 17-5, 1st in net.
Weren't they below 500 too? Like
it might have been maybe 24-25. They made the finals. I threw out the 2 the COVID years. And then in 2019, Portland finished the last 25, 19-6, 4th net, and they made the Western Finals. So there is a team, there's a track record of a team we didn't think was in the top 3 or top 4 moves up there. And for me, it's either the Lakers or Golden State. And we're taping this right now as Golden State's playing and they're beating up on Dallas. But those would be my 2 picks. Golden State or the Lakers, and I'd probably lean Lakers because of Luka and the talent. Who would you have?
It feels like the Knicks are on the Lakers line of this, though, right?
That's fair. But I don't think would you necessarily say they would be an out of nowhere team? I guess it could conceivably happen. I think they're more likely to have more injuries and weird shit happen than to go on a run. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, okay, but here's something that I like about the Lakers, because I think this is always an important thing. And because I think guys play more often now, because this could get really misleading sometimes. You're looking at like matchups against the better teams. You're like, okay, who was there? You know, like even when I go through those Knicks 7 games, it's basically everybody played in those games for the Knicks. I think OG missed one. Yeah. So, you know, there's different times where you go head to head and you're looking at it, getting ready for the playoffs. But like, how do they do against each other? You're like, all these guys missed these games. But again, like I said, it's been a little bit better. The Lakers are one of 3 teams in the West with a winning record against teams 500 or better. So clearly, OKC's 20-9, the Rockets are 20-15, and the Lakers are 15-12. And I think that's important. Memphis is under 500, Denver's under 500, the Clippers are under 500, Minnesota's under 500. So again, if I said only 3 teams, the rest of them are all under 500. I think for me on the Lakers part of it is we're totally aligned on the Luka thing. Like, give me a break. Like this guy at this age with his track record and because he hasn't played in 2 months. So you're like, if you were watching these early games going, what's wrong? Like, so this is what you think it's going to be now? You just think this is who Luka's going to be? Like,
it's just going to be a complete mess.
Yeah. Do you know how absurd that is? So we're not even at peak Luka. They're putting together this performance. They have this defensive profile the last month or so, but bracket it out. 4-5, they're playing Houston. You're probably picking the Lakers because you trust their offense more than you trust Houston's offense, right? Okay, then guess what's waiting for them on the other line?
Sadly, I did this, and as you know, I hate the Lakers, and this made me sad.
Okay, but
going series by series, I was like, oh my god, they're gonna fucking make the Western Finals.
Wait, so they're beating Oklahoma City in a 1-4 matchup? You're crazy.
Oh no, I'm just saying there's a scenario with these brackets where if they're not 4 or 5, if they can somehow avoid OKC to the Western Finals,
And
right?
then you think they're going to beat Oklahoma City?
Well, so they would have to get to 2 or 3,
Okay, all
which
right,
I
yeah,
think
so
is
fine, but there's
completely reasonable. Right now they're 34-21. Memphis is 37-19, and Denver's 37-20. I think they have to leapfrog. I don't think they'd want to play OKC, but I also wouldn't blindly pick OKC against Luka LeBron either. Would you? I mean, I would
yeah,
pick
I
them to
would.
win, but I
I
wouldn't be
would.
like,
I
no, I
think that
wouldn't
would
be like, oh, lock it in, write it in marker that OKC is 100% winning. I'd be a little nervous.
well, I want to see more of the Chet stuff, but defensively the Chet stuff has been really good. So,
Yeah.
it's not the same as the Luka thing, but I mean, we're looking at Chet missing 3 months and then trying to come back. He's not taking a ton of shot. Like, I can't wait to see what that guy looks like and what this team looks like. So there's just look, they still have a massive issue with certain matchups with bigs. And normally I would say, what are you going to do against Jokic? Like, do you really think you're going to survive 7 games against like having Rui was great last night? But let's not lose our minds about who this team
I
is.
still have Denver and OKC in the Western Finals. But I think if you start thinking about series by series, game by game, this Lakers team is scary, especially with the fact that they're actually well coached, right? And they're a matchup team. I think they're a team that could win on the road in a game 7, right? How many teams could actually go on the road and win a game 7? It's not the longest possible list. This is a team that would not be afraid to go on the road. I think the Vincent thing is important for them too, because that's a guy who they signed who's been banged up or sucked for a year and a half. And then people forgot that he wasn't good, that people forgot that he was actually good and valuable in Miami and was in big games for them and kind of knows where to go and what to do. He's one of those guys. And you need a guy like that on a weird team like this. And the fact that Reeves has gone up a level and JJ loves Reeves. I mean, that the best thing JJ and LeBron have been just pump Reeves up, pump him up, make him really think he's this gifted offensive player. And I think he's playing with so much confidence now. Like how many teams have a third guy who's as good of an offensive player as Reeves is? It's on a long list.
It isn't a very long list. I mean, Pat Bev really went for it last night. I think he tweeted out they have the best 1 through 4 in the NBA. And I was like, who's the 4th?
Ooh.
And it was like Rui. I'm like, all right, going. I think you're forgetting about Boston. And then OKC with Chet. I think there's a lot of guys that you could pick from there that would be in the conversation. But as far as like number 3 guys with Reeves, I mean, is it Derek White? Is it?
I was thinking somebody on Cleveland.
Is
like
Mobley?
Mobley?
It's just a completely different kind of
Reeves?
player. Like, I'd rather have Mobley than Reeves, but offensively, like initiating your own stuff, it's not even a conversation. Reeves is like so good at it. Right.
When you're talking about good offensive players, a good litmus test is that guy scored 45 last night. Are you surprised? Right? Like if Derek White scored 45, I'd be like, what? Did he make like 12 threes? What happened? But Reeves had that game the other day when everybody was hurt. What did he have? Like 38, 40?
No, he had 45. He was 45, 26.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
I was against the Pacers.
Shocked.
Yeah, but the other starters are Dorian Finney-Smith, who, by the way, like we hadn't even mentioned yet for the defensive part of what they've done.
Right.
Huge. Getting D'Angelo Russell away from this basketball team. I try to tell you guys, Lakers fans, I know, I get it. He makes a couple threes and points, and you guys are super into that. But getting him away from this group has also been a big transition from who they are right now. And like, I feel bad we didn't even mention Dorian Finney-Smith at this point. I mean, he made 1 shot last night, and he was a plus 20.
That trade made me mad.
Why? Because you like D'Angelo Russell so much?
No, because I wanted the Lakers to not be good. I was like, fuck, they got Finney-Smith. Finney-Smith's good. He's an additive player. There were some guys around the trade deadline that I was wondering, like, I still can't believe the Lakers didn't go after Nick Claxton.
Was he available?
I don't know what are the Nets doing? I mean,
playing their ass off.
I know, but they traded to get their picks back for some tanking plan, and then they just can't stop beating teams.
I know. I just don't think Philly was ready for the Keon Johnson Watford 2-man game to close. They had no scouting report on that.
Watford was like, I gotta get this video to the scouts.
I tried to turn that game off like 4 different times last night.
Yeah, you couldn't.
I hate watching the Sixers play basketball.
Yeah.
They are disgusting. Okay. I can't turn it off. And then I was like, it's close. And I'm like, look at Brooklyn. Look at this team.
No, they can't stop.
It's now they're ahead of them. They're ahead of them in the standings in the East. That flipped it.
In that Philly game, they had a couple moments where they blew the lead and were like, all right, valiant effort. And then like, somebody else would hit a three and then all of a sudden they'd be winning again. Whatever Philly is doing to Embiid is one of the weirdest subplots of not just the year, but the decade. I have no idea why he's playing. And he looks miserable. He's falling down, I think, twice as much as he's ever fallen down. Looks like he's legitimately hurt.
What's his F per 100? Do you know?
I think this is the highest the last couple of weeks. He's just, he had that play. Yeah. When he ran in to contest the play in the corner and just kind of went into the third row, he couldn't stop. It's pretty brutal. So the case for Golden State, really quick, to be the late bloomer, is just the combo of Jimmy. I don't know what it is about Steph. It would be the greatest feature somebody wrote, but it just seems like everybody that passes through Steph's life, they turn into Gandhi for like the first 3 weeks. Like the way they talk about him, it's just like this religious experience to be Steph's teammate. And Jimmy is like so happy. Like there was that clip of him diagramming plays in the huddle. This is a guy who was just sitting next to the water cooler the last 3 months of the Miami season. And now he's like, Draymond, come here. I have an idea for a high screen. And he's just so invigorated. And I think they're legitimately dangerous looking at their schedule. And they're beating Dallas today as we're taping, but they got Charlotte. Orlando's a mess. At Philly, great. At Charlotte, at Knicks, at Nets. And then they have a 7-game homestand against Detroit, Portland, Sacramento, Knicks, Denver, Milwaukee, Toronto. Like, it's a team that could go on like a 12-2 run, and I wouldn't be surprised. So that would be the other one I'm kind of looking at. I guess the thing to watch is whether Curry can go up a level again or not, because we haven't seen it this year from him.
His life looks a lot easier having somebody like Jimmy Butler out there.
That's the thing.
And the shooting numbers would back it up. The three-point shooting would back it up. Even watching the beginning of today's game, even though it wasn't just super aggressive, like having Butler just be somebody else that people are worried about. And of course, they ran some other play where it's like Curry's the lead block on the cut, so everybody freaks out, and then Butler kind of slips a screen, and then he's the second cutter behind it, and he's wide open in a way that, you know, he's probably like, this must be, I just can't imagine playing basketball for a living and then getting the chance. Like, no wonder everybody's in a good mood. So like, this is what happens. Like when he moves, all of this other shit happens. And then now my life is like this much easier. Although I do have to point out on a couple broadcasts, like our memories can't be this short. Like Butler has a nice game. He's super aggressive. I mean, he was taking 10 shots a game for Miami. It was the lowest field goal attempts
not going
per
the foul
game.
line at all. Yeah.
No, he was actually still was like not. He's one of the most like hyper free throw rate guys in the league because he pump fakes at the rim and guys just go for it all the time. So like if you played him in a series, you guys got to stay down against him. Now he's shooting a million free throws, but he's just more aggressive now. You can tell he's taking 13 shots a game. Again, the shot count goes down because he's taking so many free throws, right? But for all the stuff that he talked about in Miami, like they took my joy from me. Like he broke up with a quarterback. You're just going like, we just saw this guy destroy his value around the league, and he makes a couple cuts and hits some free throws, and it's like, man, Golden State, like, you know, it's like Golden State's probably still scared to death of like what the long-term thing could be here, but in the short term, it's awesome to see, you know, some of these possessions late in games where you could just see Steph being like, I'm running around, I get the ball, I'm trapped, I throw it to somebody else, and I don't even really want to take some of these shots. And then you have people being like, oh, his shooting is dipping. It's like, well, no shit. So I think his life is just going to be a lot easier now. I still don't even think they're in the Lakers class, though. Are they? You have them in the Lakers class?
I don't know. I want to watch it for a couple weeks because, like Butler, he's averaging almost 10 free throws a game for Golden State. As we're taping this, they're beating Dallas by 20, and he's already 6 for 6. He's plus 24 in the game. But watching the way he's playing with these guys, it's weird. It reminded me of when Moss got to the 07 Pats and was just like so delighted to be in a real offense with Brady. And he was just like skipping around, right? And just so happy and had so much space and knew that if he was going to do whatever, the ball was going to be there. And Butler, watching the space that he has, but also the connection he has with Draymond, I wasn't prepared for. I wish we were watching the game right now. But the high IQ thing he has with Draymond, I think, has been fun to watch, where he's posting up and Draymond's at the top. They're playing this weird 2-man game, but everybody's so scared of the Curry shooting. Um, I'm I'm not counting this team out.
It reminds me a bit of like when Brian Heidick was cast as the pool guy in Melrose Place, and he was like, "Look, I'm just happy to be here."
Who is it? Brian who?
Heidick.
Who's that?
I think he played
Brian Heidick.
Yeah, he played the pool guy in Melrose Place. It just reminds me a lot of that.
Pool guy in Melrose Place? I feel like you're making this up.
Google it.
Brian Heidick. So is there anybody else you would put on the late bloomer list?
Late bloomer list? Is there any hope for a healthy Orlando?
So I had them marked down. They've been they were 6-14 in their last 20. So there's only
their
only
offense
way to go
in their last month, they're the third or fourth worst offense in the NBA. And boy, when it's bad on offense for the Magic, I'm surprised it was that high, that they were only 27.
So the other three I had marked down. It's not going to be Detroit, even though there's a lot of good Detroit numbers for the last 20, 25 games. But
how many people do you think right now know what seed Detroit is?
Yeah. Not only is Detroit, for the people listening, probably locked into the 6th seed, it's not like an easy series for the Knicks. Like, they're going to be favored. I would pick the Knicks, but I don't know if that's like the easiest series possible for them. The other two teams I have, Minnesota, just because who knows, 31-26, but maybe something
is Randall
happens.
Playing? I'm out.
Is that good or bad? If Randall's playing, you're out. Okay. And then the only other one, Dallas, I guess we have to watch. But the only other one I was thinking was the Clippers. If there's like a long, healthy Kawhi stretch, a Bogdanovich resurgence, they're really well coached like the Lakers. And, could something blossom with them in March? I wouldn't rule it out.